Science books are easily one of my favorite genres, categories. So when I heard about this book, which is one of the most highly praised science books of 2016, I had to read it. It's called I Contain Multitudes, the Microbes Within Us and a Grander View of Life. The title, I Contain Multitudes, is of course from Walt Whitman's, I think it's from Song of Myself, if I remember correctly, where he goes something like, do I contradict myself? Then I contradict myself. I contain multitudes. Something like that. But this book is not about that. It's more about microbes, which are mainly the bacteria, but also any microscopic organisms, viruses within our bodies that, they're all over our body, over our skin, our eyes, and our mouth, and our guts, everywhere. We have all these microbes, and we tend to think of them as germs, and germs has this really negative connotation that they cause disease and all this and that, but in reality, most of them are not causing disease, and they're actually very essential for our survival. We could not live without all these microbes and all the chores that they take care of within our bodies and without. So this book examines their role within us, also in the animal world, things like coral and amphibian die-offs. There's been a lot of trouble with frogs and so on. This is a little outside my range. I read science magazines a lot, but I probably got about, I feel like maybe 60 to 70% of this book, but there were times when it was really accessible and I understand it no problem. There are other times when he starts to get way more technical than I could follow, and also the fact that he was doing it in a book with just words without illustration. Well, there are some photos, but without images to guide me along made it somewhat difficult to follow some parts. But this book did change my perspective on microbes and how they can even affect our minds, our brains, because I guess they can even affect the release of dopamine, rewarding us if we eat the right foods and so on. I keep saying and so on. Because maybe these microbes are like affecting me right now and guiding me in what to say. Well, that's probably an overreach, but they do seem to have some effect on things like our mood, which is incredible. So don't underestimate the power of these microbes. When you shake hands with somebody, even when you're in the same room with them, when you touch a table, when you touch a door handle, when you get on a bus or walk, take off your shoes on the grass, all these things are affecting the microbes within you. And it's pretty amazing. This book approaches it from a variety of angles. It talks about how we think bacteria developed, and how that even it's just amazing how plentiful they are in all different parts of the world, and how many different types of them there are, how little we know about what is really going on inside our gut, because we can't see everything that's going on there. We can only from our feces, when it comes out, we can examine it, but that's a little after the fact. And there's all these mysteries about what is going on in there. So, yeah, it's a topic that we're still exploring. We use things like yogurt and probiotics and antibiotics, but we don't always necessarily know what the full effects of that are. It's really a wide open territory. There's been a lot of books, like diet books, about how to feed your gut, but a lot of that is really speculation at this point. That's what I got from this book anyways, is that we're still just at the tip of the iceberg with this stuff, and we don't know the full-on best way to use things like probiotics, antibiotics, the overuse of antibacterial soaps, antibiotics. I keep hearing about this potential apocalyptic effect of when antibiotics no longer work. So we may be getting to that point soon. This is one of those looming disasters that we're always hearing about, but maybe one of these, climate change, nuclear weapons, bacterial antibiotic failure. These are like big things that people keep talking about. So maybe at one point, one of them will destroy us all, and then won't that be nice? But for now, let's see if I can say something else about this. The image we have of bacteria, a lot of us have, is that they're either good or bad, and he kind of dispels that idea and tries to show that in some circumstances they can be good, in other cases they can be bad. For example, one bacteria helps prevent stomach cancer, but then it can also promote esophageal cancer. So we need to kind of move away from the image of these bacteria as good or bad bacteria. He uses the analogy of a garden. Our microbiome is something that we maintain, we nourish, we give it certain food or supplements or fecal transplants to make it conducive to our health, but it can also have weeds that we may need to weed out, things like that. So this book, yeah, if this interests you, if you have, I know people that have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, things like that, that it's very frustrating for them. But also other issues like asthma. I'm trying to recall what else. There's so many. Parkinson's. I could go on and on, but this is clearly something that we need to research a lot more, because a lot of us over clean our homes. Things like dogs, he points out, can be very beneficial because they're constantly interacting with new bacteria, and then they interact with us. So that actually can be very helpful, especially with young children. That's a lot of the cleanliness hypothesis, is that some of us live such isolated from dirty environment lives. Like, we go from home to car to office or whatever, that we're not exposed to a variety of bacteria, and that can affect our ability to develop resistance. So there's still so much to learn. This is like a starting point. If this interests you, the effects, I think this should interest you to some degree. Like a lot of us, if you're just eating things like a lot of meat, too much sugar, too much processed food, that can really affect your gut, because you're not exposing, getting a variety of gut bacteria, and that can hurt you in the long run. So keep this stuff in mind. I'm very curious to see where this field goes. A lot of progress seems to be being made, and I look forward to hearing more. So in conclusion, I wouldn't recommend this book for everyone. I would love to see a TV show, or something like that, a miniseries made of this book, because it would just make a lot more sense to see it. This felt like the outline of a TV show, so maybe that's what happens with a lot of these books, so maybe that will happen. And that's okay, but I don't recommend the book for everybody, but I do recommend getting these ideas in your head to some degree, because they are amazing. They do change your view of the world and what you are as a person, your identity. So I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite books of the year, but I'm glad I read it.